This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook. Man, this is going to be an interesting conversation. I have this guy next to me, Noah Kerner, is like it's like the 20 under 20, the 30 under 30, the 30 under 40, the 40 under 40, whatever else he can be. This guy has won every honor of being an entrepreneur.
80 under 80. 80 over 80. We're going for 80 over.
And I'm going to try to compete with you on that one. It's running out of time. But he's the CEO of Acorns, plural, which is my first question because it's really interesting. One of my guys was talking about how his mom pluralizes everything. And I don't know Acon from Acorn or Acorns from Acorn. Why did you put a plural to the Acorns?
Because if it was singular, it would be like you only put 25 cents into the market. So we did the ideas from tiny acorns, mighty oaks do grow. So it's lots of small amounts, lots of spare change, lots of $5 a day. The idea is that adds up eventually if you stick with it for a long time into a mighty oak. That was the concept.
And I love the fact that when I think about you as an entrepreneur, I think about leveling the playing field. And it's one of my aspirations of empowering people to be happy, of allowing everyone to share in abundance, to make money, help people, and have fun. Within the context of that perspective for you, what was it growing up that you felt that you had to take care of the underdog? Because I think of any company in investing, your app to me is the underdog app.
I was a New York City public school kid, so I grew up around kids that didn't have a lot. I was just talking about this today. A lot of people in my family didn't come from a lot. My father grew up in the Grand Concourse in the Bronx, and his parents, and so it came from a lot of that type of environment. But a lot of the most valuable, wonderful things I got as a kid were from people who didn't have a lot, and I think growing up, as I got the idea of trying to give back in whatever way I could. I also, there was this time in my life when I was a public school kid going to PS41, somehow I got into tennis. So I was a competitive tennis player. So it'd be like in the day I'd be going to school with kids that didn't have a lot, and then at night playing with the wealthiest kids in Manhattan. And there was a lot of
Riverdale kids would come in and play tennis with you, right?
right. There was a lot of experiences like that, of like these two worlds and moving between them. And so just seeing a lot of stuff that people didn't have, and feeling like that would be my way to give back, and combine that with my professional life. It's not a non-for-profit.
Right. And doing well to do good is definitely in the context of what I try to do. But there's also, a philosophy of abundance behind what you do, in the respect that compounding of interest, compounding effect of behavior, compounding discipline and financial literacy. And I know a lot of people may not be well aware of, the intricacies of how micro investing works, that you have to be able to understand time and allow things to evolve. But the compounding of interest when it comes to investing is exponential in its nature. Where did you first get exposed to the idea of compounding and utilizing maybe the rule of 72 or other Einsteinian type of philosophies into finance?
We like to say also it's about time in the market, not timing the market, which I think is an easy concept to understand. That just means that if you're in the market in diversified portfolios, which is what we offer at Acorns, versus trading in and out of the market, if you stick with it in diversified portfolios over the long term, your money has a chance to grow on top of itself. It's wild when you look at like the markets over the last 10, 15, 20 years. If you had been out of the market for 10 or 20 days during that period, you would have lost specific days, you would have lost an immense amount of opportunity to make money. People's natural instinct when the market goes down, like right now, is to pull out.
Yeah.
And I always try to remind people that's the only way you lock in your losses is if you pull your money out after it went down. Because you didn't technically lose the money.
Right.
It's just down. And since every downturn in history has ended in an upturn, if you stick with it, you should hopefully be able to make that money back in spades. I probably learned that lesson as when I was in the summer of my junior year in high school. My dad got me a job as a bank teller.
Really?
So, yeah. So for 3 months, the first two, you did training. So I learned what to do when the bank gets robbed, which is my favorite part of the.
What do you do, by the way?
You don't do anything. You let the bank get robbed.
Oh, that's the rule.
Yeah,
Just
which was hard for me to process. Like you're behind the bulletproof
How
glass.
much training did you have to have?
It's a bunch of training to not react.
Yeah, right.
But I'm like, I'm not. How do you just let the bank get robbed? It's like that's well, we'll see what happens when the bank gets robbed. The bank, you know.
That's so good.
But that was when I learned a lot of the basic lessons of money management, and then had the chance as a 17-year-old kid to be behind the glass and to impart that onto people, that would come in and to see how hard these concepts are. And we don't learn this stuff in school, right? Like
Right.
you graduate with no education in how to manage money. You don't even know when it's tax time, which is a crazy thing to be so unprepared for something so fundamental to your life. I think everybody should be a bank teller for a summer. That would be an incredible learning experience for people. So that was probably when I first
Yeah.
learned about what you said, what Einstein calls the eighth wonder of the world.
It is true. And beyond that, too, one of the other lessons that I see, and you kind of inherently discussed it when you were talking about investing in the market or, being in the market. But timing and risk tolerance is an area that, I do a lot in financial literacy, trying to get people to understand before you invest your time, your emotion, or your money, know your timing and risk tolerance. And as long as it's aligned with and synergistic to the opportunity, which can be found out by asking for help or mentorship from someone that knows about what each investment does, you're going to be happy. How does timing and risk tolerance, number one, impact what you're doing? And two, how do you empower people that are your community, your customer base, to know their timing and risk tolerance so that they can align with the opportunity, knowing how the return on their investment will work?
I mean, I think one of the coolest parts about Acorns is because the time and risk tolerance, it sounds like sort of easy. Maybe it sounds easy when you talk
Yeah.
about it, but it's actually not easy to understand. It's not easy to figure out how to actually apply that. So we do that work for the customer when they set up an Acorns account. So we collect. There's basic suitability questions. We collect age, net worth, income, et cetera, and then we recommend a portfolio based on what we know about you. You can change it. We don't recommend that you do, and then we do a check-in periodically. But so we basically set you up for the future as well as we can. And if you stick with it and continue contributing, and hopefully you do it with frequency, like every day, every week. I like to try to remind people that compounding benefits from frequency. So even if you do it daily versus weekly versus monthly, you can see benefits from daily. So $5 a day, which isn't doable for everybody, but it's wild. So just as this statistic, if you do $5 a day starting at birth, like if your parents, at a basic annual return rate, you'd have $4.5 million at retirement, and if you started at 18, you'd have around 1.5 million. So you think about that 18-year period.
Yeah.
And the further out you get, when your money's growing on top of itself, the more the money grows on top of itself. So it's a powerful phenomenon. The earlier you start, the better. But the idea of time, value, how all those things work, we try to take that heavy lifting off of the customer's plate and do it for them, and then educate them on how to think about it after the fact.
Yeah, the triple multiplier. So those people that don't know, say, look at this in behavior as well. The triple multiplier says that if you double that which you're investing, could be behavior, that normally those last two doubles create a triple multiplier. So if you're at 25% and it doubles twice, you get an opportunity to double it twice more. Then you're going to be at 100%, which is 75% more, three times. So it's a triple multiplier
Yeah.
of what you're doing. And I think a lot of people can't think in terms of having the patience because it takes so long to get to the 25%. Most people quit good behavior before they get to the 25%.
Yeah.
What systematic things do you do at Acorns to allow people to feel a comfort level to be consistent, whether it's the daily, the weekly, or the annual investment? What types of things can we do to help people have coherence, to remember to do it and to do it? Because the impact that it has, $5 a day, for example, is tremendous and exponential.
I mean, we try to get you set up from the beginning. So one of the things I talk to the team about is that the registration funnel is actually the most important product we have, because that's where people set themselves up for the future in Acorns. Like, you set up a recurring deposit, you set up spare change investing. There's other things obviously to do after the fact. So you can set up a retirement account, all these things, but that's where you start the journey. And if we can get you setting up $5 a day or $20 a week, and you get into set it and forget it mode, and then we try to teach you as you go to think about things, that way. That's really the key. So as the beginning, uh, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
But this is not like planning for the future and focusing on the future is not a natural thing to do because everybody's got stuff to do today. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of alluring things, trading stocks, all this kind of stuff. But slow and steady wins the race every time. And I think the more people can just take that first step. I think that's what Acorns is. It's like you're about to take that first step, and then we set things up for you in the beginning of that journey. And if you just let it ride, and in a way set it and forget it, you're going to be set up for a really good future.
And what type of challenges did you have, or what type of decisions you have to make when you're dealing with the SEC regulations, the banking regulations, obviously compliance issues with, maybe they were fighting you on having accredited investors, or what were the thresholds that you had to either maintain or consistently look at? Because I'm sure you had some resistance from our government when you're trying to facilitate something that levels the field.
I mean, so we are a fiduciary, and in a way, there's obviously different nuances, but generally speaking, we think like a regulator thinks. And so we approach things from the perspective of what's best for the customer. Our mission statement is with benevolence and courage, we look after the financial best interests of the up and coming. So we put the customer's best interest first. So there are some little specific rules where you might say, why is that doesn't even make sense. And if you asked a person in the government, do you think that makes, they're saying this doesn't make sense. But generally speaking, like we think like a regulator. Yeah. So there's not really a lot of friction there. The whole reason for Acorns being here is putting the responsible tools of wealth making in everyone's hands. And I think pretty much everyone wants that on both sides of the aisle, in the government, the regulators, they would say, this is a good product for people to have, focusing on diversification, long-term investing, trying to educate as people go, which is really fundamental. We talk about educating at the moment of decision making. Usually people learn about money outside of the places where they interact with their money. And I've long had the belief that if you can bring those two things together in the same place, you can really have more impact. And the other thing is these small behavioral nudges, to really encourage people to take these actions in the product that are good for them using different mechanisms. Like I was just saying today, we do tests where we look at what does it look like if you ask a customer to invest $150 a month, $35 a week, or $5 a day, which is the same amount of money in aggregate.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? What do you think about participation rates at $5 a day versus $150 a month? If you just the suggestion,
like percentage of people who would do one or the other,
who do $150 a month versus $5 a day.
Oh, I would say 70% of the people would want to do $150 a month.
So 4 times the amount of people do $5 a day.
So more people want to do $5 a day.
4 times.
Wow.
Because it's a smaller amount, it feels more digestible.
And
$150.
And because of technology, we're able to make it painless and
just like that.
Yeah.
But just those little things, and we call that, like Thaler would call it, a nudge. Those little things can make all the world of difference for somebody. If you thought about somebody who would or wouldn't invest because you put the wrong amount of money in front of them, those are important things to understand and be able to experiment with.
And beyond the actual, what you guys do, what you say, what you think, one of the key components I see is you as an entrepreneur and the company is taking control of our mindset or our beliefs. And I think, I see trends with successful entrepreneurs like yourself of having this extraordinary, imaginative, limitless possibility of beliefs, and you transcend that to your community and to your customer base. How important is that mindset, your belief system of, like I see in your personality and your company, like dreaming big, which I always say, look at my day. I'm very realistic. I'm very productive, accessible, and gracious with my time, efficient, effective, statistically successful with my time. But, my mission in life is to change the world. I want to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. That should scare you because it scares me, or you could laugh at me even. That's cool. I see the same trend in you. And beliefs are so important that you must believe something super big. How important is that, not just for you, but for all of your company to have a bigger belief system?
I think it's fundamental, but I also think having it grounded in reality. Like I think one of the things that Acorns does well is to have a have a big mission, have big goals, but to make sure they're rooted in the truth of what we're doing. So it's not some kind of like highfalutin, strange concept that's not grounded in the in what Acorns can actually do. The emotion that people get is hope. That's a big deal when it comes to money because there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of depression that comes from from money, guilt. It's the root of a lot of interfamily issues. So to be able to provide a sense of hope, to give people some control of their money and a sense of control over their future, because there's a lot of emotion in it, that's important. My favorite screen in the app is called the potential screen, which is kind of what you're talking about. But it's like I think we have this belief in the unlimited potential in people. I love the Picasso quote that every child is born an artist. The problem is how to remain one as we grow up.
Nice.
Every child's also born an entrepreneur. I think the thing that distinguishes people who become entrepreneurs from people who don't is you were confronted in childhood by somebody who said, "Yeah, forget it, kid," or "just cause," or your parents didn't support your creativity, and But every child is born an entrepreneur, like a tiny acorn with this unlimited potential to become a mighty oak. A lot of times in our society, that just doesn't get nurtured. My fiance and I have a little organization we started called Give Kids Art, and it's about delivering visual arts programming to kids through the Boys and Girls Club, and the concept is create fearlessly. And I watch her deliver this programming to these kids who come from tough backgrounds. They have a lot of self judgment, a lot of I'm not good. I'm not good. My art's bad. She tries to remind them there's no such thing as good or bad in art. It's just what you create. So create fearlessly. Just put yourself out there. If you become a professional artist one day, people might judge you. But for now, just be try to create and do your best.
I love
So,
that.
so yeah,
I think at its core, you as an entrepreneur in the business represent my definition of success or happiness, which is both you as an entrepreneur and the app allow you to enjoy the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of your potential. And you've been able to show us and illustrate through your actions what that means as an entrepreneur, but even more importantly, how you can give back to our community and level the playing field and provide options, opportunities, and even touches of favor that can change lives so that kids like you and I that grew up in the public schools and maybe were at least aware of or placed upon those that maybe had more than us growing up, we can level the field and allow people's character and their own work ethic and their contribution to determine their ceiling. As we know, the skills and knowledge you have determines the basement, but your desire determines your potential. And I appreciate everything that you're doing as a business. We have the amazing CEO of Acorns himself, Noah Kerner. Thank you for joining me. This is David Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.